Another report, again based on surveys conducted over the last 3 days, suggests that even a shivling was discovered. In this particular report on page 7, it is claimed that once the shivling was discovered, the Gyanvapi Mosque committee came out and said that this was not a shivling but a fountain. Pictures now with Times Now suggest, viewers, and you can see them on your screens, that there were more than one shivlings, alleged shivlings, at this particular complex. The picture there has caused quite a flutter, and you can see it on your screens. It's been circled and identified as a shivling in a niche. The structure is obviously Hindu when you look at it because of the motifs on the walls. Several other motifs have also been carefully designated in these reports. Identified lotuses, the Sheshnag. Apart from the shivling, there have also been references to saffron Hindu deities. Let's go straight across to both Padmaja and Madhav for more on this. First to you, Madhav, since you have the report, the latest one, which refers, of course, to the shivling, if you could just take us over some of the excerpts so that our viewers know what there is in them.
Well, absolutely, and the report talks about this particular structure that was found, in the middle of the Wazukhana. It talks about the fact that there was a round structure that was inside 2.5 फुट ऊंची व बेस पर 4 फुट व्यास का गोलाकार आकृति मिला जो शुरू में पानी में डूबी हुई थी. So it was immersed in the water. It goes on to say that on the top of it, 9 by 9 inch round white stone was separately attached to it, and in the middle of it, 5 खांचे 5 दिशाओं में बने हुए थे. इस पत्थर के नीचे लगभग 2.5 फुट ऊंची गोलाकार आकृति की एक पीस दिखी जिसकी सतह पर अलग प्रकार का घोल चढ़ा हुआ था. So this was a separate color. It appeared to be a separate material, and then when they went ahead and removed it from the water, because it was immersed in the water, they removed the algae on it, they cleaned it up, and then it turned out to be a black stone which was inside. The Vadigan, which is the petitioners, very clearly said that this is a shivling. सामान्य रूप में बड़े शिवलिंग का जो आकार होता है वैसा ही इसका आकार प्रतीत होता है, परंतु टॉप पर अलग गोलाकार अलग मटेरियल का पत्थर रखा गया जिन पर 5-5 खांचे बने हुए थे. So it's quite clear that this appears to be a shivling is the view of the Advocate Commissioner, and that's spelled out in as many words in black and white because of the presence of another material that was capping this particular structure that appears to be a shivling in black stone. That is why, and of course it was immersed in water, that is why perhaps it could not have been spotted earlier, and this certainly of course appears to be one of the most important findings apart from the other findings of whether it is betel leaves, whether it is of lotuses, or whether it is of the trishuls or the other objects that have been found during the course of this survey. So the Hindu side certainly believes that their claims have once again been underlined with this particular Advocate Commissioner's report. And we must remember, Rahul, when the first Advocate Commissioner's report came out in this morning, they have said that it has no legal sanctity, it has no legal standing, as he is no longer the Advocate Commissioner. But now that the second Advocate Commissioner, who is of course not been removed, and this is the report that the court is perhaps going to peruse when it further adjudicates. Of course, the court's proceedings for about a little over 24 hours have been stayed by the Supreme Court. We don't know what the Supreme Court will do tomorrow, but certainly whenever the court, the Varanasi trial court, adjudicates, this is the report on the basis of which it's going to take further action. What that action will be, perhaps we have to wait and watch out for.
Okay, let me go straight across to Padmaja Joshi also. Madhav, stay on with me. Now, there are two reports in the public domain, Padmaja. One by, of course, Ajay Mishra, who was shown the door, effectively, and the other one by Vishal Singh, who remains impaneled. Are there grave differences between these two reports, or are their conclusions more or less the same, and if so, what are they?
So the very important question that you have asked, why are the two reports significant? Because Ajay Mishra was part of the survey team, or rather he was the only surveyor the first 2 days. This man only saw the exterior. On those 2 days, only the external, the walls of the mosque were surveyed. So what he puts in his report is what he found on the outside. He also speaks, by the way, his report also speaks of the tridents, of the lotus flowers, and of what looks like temple bells and swastikas. This report goes a step further, because once Ajay Mishra was out of the picture, they went inside and the Wazoo Khana came into the conversation. Now, since this entire issue is about whether it is a fountain or it is a Shivling, Madhav has already described what the report says about the look of the Shivling, where you had black stone emerge from under the white stone that had been put on top of it. Now let's talk about the functionality. The report actually mentions in detail, and I quote, दौरान कोर्ट कमीशन कार्रवाई वकील कमिश्नर ने प्रतिवादी संख्या 4, which is Anjuman Intizamiya. So the court commissioner asked the counsel for Anjuman Intizamiya, Ejaz Muhammad, that is this fountain shut? He said it's been shut for many years. Then he said it has been shut for 20 years. Then he said it's been shut for 12 years. वादी के अधिवक्ता द्वारा कहा गया, which is the petitioner's counsel said that why don't you show us how the fountain works? Let's see how it works. Then Mr. Ejaz Ahmed said, I'm sorry, I can't, it doesn't work anymore. Then they went on to judge what this fountain theory is, and I quote verbatim from the report, उस आकृति की गहराई में बीचों बीच सिर्फ आधे इंच से कम का एक छेद मिला. There was a hole in the middle of that akriti which was less than half an inch, and it was 63 centimeters deep. उसके अलावा कोई छेद किसी भी साइड में ना था. अन्य स्थान बावजूद खोजने पर नहीं मिला. This is very important for everyone who's arguing this is a fountain. The report says there was one hole. It was less than half an inch wide and it was only 63 centimeters deep. There was no other hole in the entire structure, and further goes on to say फव्वारा हेतु कोई पाइप घुसाने का स्थान नहीं था. इस सब की फोटोग्राफी और वीडियोग्राफी की गई. So here purportedly we have a fountain that has no water inlet. It has one hole which is half an inch in diameter and it is 63 centimeters deep. We leave it to the judgment of our viewers. What kind of fountain doesn't have a water inlet and has half an inch one hole? Back to you.
So, Padmaja, what you're suggesting is that perhaps this is not a functional fountain, if at all. If at all. But I wanted to focus a little bit more on what is creating so much excitement, and those are the images on our screens of a Shivling. Where did this come from and how does this fit into the narrative?
Very important question again, because this second report, Rahul, is a wealth of information. Of course, the additional detail is about the Shivling found in the Wazoo Khana. But from page 1 itself, it lays out in great detail every step that the commissioner, the surveyors took. It starts from day 1. And mind you, they've been at pains to register each step. So they say that the lock was opened in the presence of Ejaz Ahmed, who is the counsel for Intizamiya committee. अंदर जाने पर दरवाजे के सटे लगभग 2 feet बाद, as soon as they entered, 2 feet after entering, जमीन से 3 feet ऊपर पान के पत्ते के आकार की फूल की आकृति बनी थी. So 3 feet above the ground, as soon as they entered, they saw flower motifs, 6 of them. 6 संख्या में मिले. तहखाने के अंदर देखा गया, उसमें 4 दरवाजे थे. Then they say तहखाने में 4 खंबे पुराने तरीके के थे. 4 total pillars which were with old motifs. They were 8 feet high, and in these 4 pillars, 8 feet high each, they saw ghanti, kalash, phool. Interestingly, there also seems to be mention of how there was an effort to change the character, or maybe renovation, I don't know what. They say that in the middle of these 4 खंबे 2 नए पिलर ईंटों से बनाए गए थे. एक खंबे पर पुरातन हिंदी भाषा में 7 लाइनें खुदी हुई थी. There were inscriptions in Hindi on one pillar which has also been photographed, and then a 2 feet Bhagwan ka photo. This is what is mentioned. Again, then they talk about the Paschimi Diwar, which is the western wall. They say that there is a hathi ki soond tooti hui kalakritiyan, which is that they had idols with broken tusks of elephants with broken tusks. दीवार के पत्थरों पर स्वास्तिक, त्रिशूल, पान के चिन्ह और उसकी कलाकृतियां बहुत भाग में खुदी हुई थी. इसके साथ घंटियां जैसी कलाकृतियां भी खुदी हैं. ये सब कलाकृतियां प्राचीन भारतीय शैली के रूप में प्रतीत होती हैं, जो काफी पुरानी है. इसमें काफी कलाकृतियां टूट गई हैं. So it mentions in great detail every step when they entered the tehkhana, when they entered the basement. On 4 pillars you found inscriptions in Hindi. Then on another western wall you had pan-shaped inscriptions, you had lotus flowers, you had swastik, and you had trishul. Back to you.
So when you say the second report, my final question to you, you are referring to Vishal Singh's report. Is that true? Okay. Vishal Singh, viewers, who is still impaneled.
And I want to quickly point out to you, Rahul, that this, by the way, has been signed off by everyone. This report has the signatures of all parties as well. And this is the one that has been submitted, the one we have accessed. All signatures here on this page.
All parties, viewers, all parties have signed off on this, which means the committee of the masjid, as well as, of course, the surveyors. Well,